Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome. You are watching Self Love TV. I'm just going to give it a moment and let people pop on, and I'm going to pull this up on my phone so I can see who's joining us.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Happy Friday. This is Jessica. She's here with me today. We are talking about, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her in a second. She's going to tell you a little bit about her in a second. But today we are talking about the topic of how to go with the flow in a way that feels really good and in alignment with your highest intuition. And more specifically, what I mean by that, and if you're a man or if you feel a certain type of way when I say this, we're actually going to be talking about the menstrual cycle, women's periods, women's bodies. And just because you don't have a woman's body, we all can benefit from knowing the information, general information about women's cycles and how that can support us in going with the flow. And the reason why I'm really excited about this topic today is because especially during quarantine, especially during all of this chaos and just new lifestyle that we've had to get used to, it can be really hard for people to get back into the flow of things. And a lot of times we can feel like we're going against the grain, like we have never ending things on our to-do list and we're pushing like this big rock up a hill. And so I wanted to talk about that because I know a lot of us are feeling that, and I certainly feel it too. So I was definitely recommended and referred, and I'm so glad Jessica's one of my new friends now. And she was referred to me by my coach, Joanna Lindenbaum, and one of my dear friends from Joanna Lindenbaum's world, Joni. So hey, Joanna. Hey, Joni.
Hey.
We're here connecting.
We did it.
As always, as you're popping on this live, please drop a comment so we can say hello to you. If you have any questions, you can comment them. And of course, if you're watching this on a replay, please comment a hashtag replay. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I know about Jessica. And then, of course, Jessica, I want to hear from you, like more details about that. But Jessica is a holistic health coach, and she helps high achieving creative people who feel shut down because of their health. I can totally relate to that. Feel vibrant, connected, and passionate again. So a lot of the work you do is connected to the body and embodiment and understanding that, if I'm correct. But tell us a little bit more about what it is you do as it relates to all of that.
Well, I do a lot of things. As it relates to all of those parts, I think that we all have intuition. We all have a way that we can tune in. It's just a matter of learning the right tools and practices that work with us as individuals. There's so many ways and so many, like many ways to skin a cat. Isn't that a phrase? Just many ways to do things. So it's about finding people's personal way and individual way that works for them and their bodies and their stories and their lifestyles. But we all have it within us to have deeper connection with our intuition. And also when I say high achieving, in that sometimes people are like, oh, I think that means different things to different people too. Just like success means different things to different people, so it's really how you define everything and finding your own flow with like what your life is.
I love that. And that's such a perfect like supplement too. And it dovetails perfectly into what we're going to talk about today. But it also is just a great supplement to just Self Love TV and my work and what it's all about, because the work that I do is all about loving yourself and knowing yourself enough that you do things on your own terms and in a way that, even if your parents, your culture, society tries to tell you to do something a certain way, there's that inner guidance and knowing that, like, in your heart, in your soul, and in your body. And there is no one size fits all. I mean, you didn't say that, but that's what I kind of heard. It's like helping people find their own flow based on what's right for them. So I think that's so beautiful and so important and just so relevant to what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here and making the time.
I'm happy that I can be. This kind of topic is near and dear to me anyway. And also, yeah, I mean, there's so much unlearning that has to go along with what you're talking about. And so when you say tuning into your own thing and your own message, I mean, for a lot of people, it takes a long time, or it takes a lifetime. It takes however long it takes to really get in there and unlearn and unravel, or whatever, deprogram ourselves, because most of our lives, first parts, we spend with that being forced on us or put on us without us even knowing it, without anyone even knowing it. Just, it's what happens. Yeah. So like it's a funny path, and then coming back another way to come back to what is going on inside of us. Just like with our bodies, we don't learn necessarily that. I mean, some of us do, some people do, because they're really fortunate to have guidance that way early on. But a lot of people never have had the opportunity. So I think it's your birthright to have the opportunity to really get to know and tune in and know what the messages are of your own thing.
I love that. No, and it's interesting. Actually, I was talking to a girlfriend the other day, and I'm in my mid-30s, and I talk to my girlfriends a lot about women's stuff, and it's just incredible how so much of us don't know. I mean, we learn like a little bit in school, but like you said, some people are fortunate to have been taught, but there's no class that like teaches, you take math, you take science and literature and history, but there's no like learning about your body and the emotions and the hormones and all of that. And there's just so much we don't know. And there's so much that I didn't know. And I'm just starting to really dive in and learn about these things. And for me, I'm also here selfishly to like learn more about how to follow these flows. And so I'll just kind of start off with like what I've been learning, and then we can kind of go into,
I'd love to know.
Yeah, about the cycles and the flows. And like, I'll just repeat this again in case you're just hopping on. If you're hopping on, please just give us a hello and drop us a comment. But we're going to be talking about how to go with the flow and how to find your own natural alignment that feels good for you to follow your intuition. And that learning is not gendered at all. However, we are going to kind of anchor it with learning about women's cycles and women's flows and their periods and their menstruation cycle, because it's such an intuitive, natural thing. And I think as I've been learning to tune into it, I've been able to go with the flow so much easier. And when I was in a relationship too, just from him understanding where I was at in my cycle, he was able to really anchor in and go with the flow as well. And we were able to create deeper intimacy and understand each other. So I want to just reiterate that, and I'll say it over and over again. Like, if you're a man watching this, or this will benefit you too. Like, there are women in your life, so you want to understand that, and we all influence each other. So what I've been learning is, like, right now, I'm in my follicular phase, which means I'm on that kind of like upswing of feeling really good, where that peak is like ovulation, where I'm just like really feeling myself and really flirty and really horny, and just like really like wanting to be out there and connecting with people. So before that, I had my bleed, and then before that I had I believe my luteal phase, and I was feeling like down. And I think, like, I was judging myself for it, because I was like, I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and I was just like, I don't understand. Like, I was feeling really good a few days ago, and I was really gung-ho. I was like, had all these plans and things on my to-do list for my business and my clients, and like talking with friends and all of that stuff. And then I was like, today I feel so sensitive. I feel really sad and all that stuff. And then she was like, what part of your cycle are you in? And I was like, I don't freaking know. And she's like, it would be good to know that. And so I started to really like look into it more. So yeah, like, I'll just.
Perfect.
Well, you know more than me, so jump right in.
You're learning, a lot. What your example is perfect, because what that was the perfect example of is the way in which your body is perfect. It's literally by design. It serves a purpose. It's supposed to make you feel a slow down, a quiet, a different way of being, so that your body can do what it's supposed to do. And then, so it totally actually is brilliant in a way. But what's funny is our heads get in the way. And that's what gets in the way with most things that block the flow, is like we start overthinking and judging and, screaming and yelling, when really your body's like, I know what to do. Like, I'm supposed to have. Now, of course, people who have some really severe hormonal dysfunction, and we're so bombarded with so many other kinds of roadblocks that get in the way of letting the river just flow and letting things just move. But so we have to start identifying what those roadblocks are and looking at them. But you're giving a good, healthy, decently healthy, example of like just a regular situation where you're like, and again, I think I said that, there are, you and I talked about this one time, just how there are women who have figured out a way to run their businesses based on where they are in their cycle, which is,
I'm learning that.
It's not always easy, because it's like life happens and there's no perfection either. Like, of course, sometimes, I love that you and I are in the same, I'm right where you are. I think we're in sync actually in our cycle of what you just mentioned. I'm like, oh, me too. So ideally this would
be perfect. We're going live today.
This is the perfect time to go live. However, there's nothing wrong with going live when you're feeling down and going, oh, hey, I'm really feeling slow and quiet and inward and a little down, and I'm live, but I'm letting you know that, like, it's okay. I'm just going to show up a little different, or my energy is going to be a little different. I might not be as sharp, but I am really tuned in, or whatever. And so there's a place for all of it. But if you were planning the perfect way of being in your business and you want to be doing all your, outward networking, connecting stuff while you're in the phase that you're in right now, so be it. Great, go for it. It's not always going to work out perfectly, but it's cool that that's a possibility that people could start considering, like, oh, what if I were to, plan things that way? And again, life happens. It doesn't always, and we're in a culture where most of the time, generally speaking, I hate to say it, I mean, there's plenty of men and women who wouldn't give a shit. They'd be like, I don't care where you want, you got to do the thing. And I don't know. So with you run your own show, and you can decide if you want to, how you want to.
I think even if, we're not running our own shows and we can't decide, I think what I'm learning is the first step is like acceptance and acknowledgement, right? So let's say I'm not running my own business, and I don't have the privilege of making my own schedule, and I do have to go to work every day at a certain time. So yes, of course, it's like not like the world has not yet, I know some companies though actually give women, like period PTO, which I think is genius, and I totally would implement that when I have an empire. But not everyone is there. But I think just acknowledging and knowing, like, oh, okay, I'm in kind of the down part of my cycle where I'm feeling not as out there and not as flirty and friendly, but not making that wrong. Because like for me, what I've been learning is I used to make that wrong. Like, oh, I should be happy right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's your mind getting in the way. Your mind, that's our culture. That's the messaging from outside.
Exactly.
It's not really what you actually believe.
Yeah. But in terms of accepting that and kind of like releasing that stigma and learning, like, oh no, like I'm actually more intuitive right now. Cause I find when I'm in the down phase, I'm much more tapped into my own emotions, my own inner universe, but also the people around me. Like I feel like this very like down, grounded, like I can feel the world more deeply. And I think that's why I'm more emotional, which can be overwhelming, but it's actually a gift, and I found that, like I said, in partnership with like a boyfriend or with friends, it's like I feel so much more connected and in tune with what's going on. And there's actually like deeper intimacy that gets created. So it's like, yes, there's like the follicular ovulation, like out, 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 but then there's also like the down luteal, like, okay, in, and like, what do I need to take care of my heart and my soul, And we might not all be fortunate enough to have a boss that gives a shit, like you said, but the first person that needs to give a shit is we need to give a shit. Right?
Right. And know that, like you said, it's a gift, and it's a deeper intimacy with yourself.
Yeah.
And not just intimacy in whatever other way, but just with yourself and with your body, and knowing that it's actually quite wise.
Yeah. So what are some other, so like we've identified, and we can talk more deeply about like if there's anything else that we should consider or know, but like, okay, there's like the lower part of the cycle, then there's like the higher, more out there part. Like what other parts are there, or what else can we know about these different points in the cycle and how we can identify them and how we can best work with them?
Well, as like I said earlier, I think it's quite individual. There's general categories, but I mean, I'm sure you've had friends, even friends of yours, where you get in conversation about this. Have they shared with you what their experiences are with those with different phases? What have they said to you?
Um, I know my sister and I, like, I remember when I learned that like the day before my bleed, I will sleep all day. And I used to beat myself up about that because I'm like a high achiever, perfectionist, like
Yeah.
get stuff done. And so when I'm
Mhm.
really tired, I would be like, I don't understand. Why am I so tired? I'm so lazy. I would judge myself like
Right.
really.
That's, yeah, the messaging that's actually false.
Like you said, the mind gets in the way. But then when I Googled it, I saw like that it's normal for a lot of people to feel like, because your body's doing all this, it's preparing for
Yeah,
potentially creating
exactly.
life. Like
Exactly. It's
what
busy.
what
There's a lot
shame
going
is there?
on.
Yeah, like what shame is there in that, you know? And so of course you're tired. Um and like with my partner, like he would have his cycles too. um they wouldn't necessarily be in sync with mine, but we started to learn each other's and not expect certain things where it's like, oh, okay, you're in like a you need to be alone kind of phase, or you're in an introspective kind of phase. And yeah, so my sister and I, we both related to like, yeah, we'll sleep a lot, or 1 or 2 weeks before the bleed, we'll notice we're really irritable, or just I hate to say irritable because that sounds whatever,
Maybe
but
you just need space. It's not even irritable. You just need some space to do a
see, that's
that's
so
I
much
think so
nicer.
our bodies are creative by nature. Okay. It's a creative life force that's going on. And sometimes during a creative cycle, you can't create, you can't build with the influence of others just in your thing. You have to have the breathing room. So that might cause irritability or irritation because it's just feeling like I need the room to do the magic here.
Mm.
So yeah, so you can reframe any of these things. You can flip a word and be like, oh, actually it's that.
And
Hmm.
and that sounds so much better. Like, because like if I'm like, oh, I'm irritable right now, or oh, I'm cranky, that sounds really judgy and like,
It's
yeah,
just
like
it's
shamey.
just and also it's more shaming. Yeah.
Instead of like, I need a little bit of space today or this week, or like there's
Yeah.
or even saying like I'm feeling sensitive to what's around. I'm feeling more sensitive to what's around me during this time. And yeah, I guess that, yeah, then that turns into irritable if we're shaming it, because it's like if things are in our face, but like, yeah.
And if you're not listening, then you'll get more irritable. If you're really not doing what your body's actually asking of you, then of course you're going to get more irritable.
And I guess like from a practical perspective, because like I can hear people like if you're watching probably thinking like, yeah, well, I have a demanding job, so I
Right.
can't exactly like have the space. Like what,
Nice for you, right? Like I don't
yeah,
have that luxury or
what
something.
can someone do if even if they have like a demanding job
I think
or
it's a really good question, and I think it's that you have to find your rhythm and a way to sneak things in. So what does that mean? It means actually you can choose 5 times through the day. I don't care what, if you're going to the bathroom and you stop and you put your hand on your heart and on your belly where these energy centers are, and you take 1 deep breath, 5 deep breaths, and you just come back to your body and then
mm,
go back to your busy day. I mean, you could do that 10 times and it really doesn't really steal away or stop you producing all the stuff you have to do. Everyone could do that. I don't know that many people, unless an emergency room doctor might have, in those critical moments, but in those critical moments, you still have to, you're in a different space in your brain probably, but also before it, after it, there's the little places, little bits. So for those times which hopefully aren't long times. And that creates other problems. We're talking about for short bursts where you're like, I don't have the luxury of like slowing down and doing that thing. You have to cap it and bookend it in your day in a different way than I might be able to or something. But you have to adjust it to like what it is you're really doing and your priorities. And I think there's ways to sneak it in almost always. I mean, like I said, I work with a lot of high achieving creative people who do have demanding jobs, people who are making huge impact in the world, people who have ripple effect into lots of communities whose lives impact many, many others. And they can do things. They can shut the door in their wherever. And if they need to lay on the floor for a moment, or if they need to, but the key, in my opinion, is you choosing to find those things now in the cycles that you're in versus later once you're, because of a crisis. And then you're really in a much more challenging position. So prevention is always better in terms of how you're following your body cycles so that it won't build. And then, if we're talking about the body and hormonal stuff and like, oh, you have PCOS and you have all other kinds of more challenging things, you still are going to have to find your way to sneak those moments in to start taking care of yourself and noticing your cycles. But for demanding jobs, for people who just are like, how do I do that? Yeah, you have to choose that it's important enough, first of all, and find your reason why I would do that, and choose it and put yourself first to take those moments. Again, doesn't have to be long, moments.
Moments. Yeah. I love that. And I totally get that. And I think the choice definitely, and what I'm also kind of feeling into is like, there's also like a belief that needs to be tweaked, right? Because, I can hear people, a lot of my clients too, like I have a lot of clients that are like frontline essential workers and, of course, emergency room, all of that. And so it's like, but when I hear the words that come out of, that can come out of people's mouths, like, I can't, I have no time.
Yeah,
right. Then that just kind of cuts off the possibility. And I know for me, I used to work on Wall Street. So I used to work in like a demanding kind of environment. And I also put a lot of pressure on myself. So yes,
you just said
I have the luxury of my schedule, but I do put a lot of stuff on my plate. And like, so for me, like what I do when I notice that I'm like being that like anxious, like, I just tell myself like, woo, like, just
wait a second,
slow down a little bit and like pause. And like, I like how you said that, like find the moments, we're not saying like, okay, go sneak off into the office and take a 2-hour nap. I mean, hey, unless you can do that, but
it's not a 2 hour. That's another, it's not necessary in 2 hours, depends. But no, I think that I have clients who I tell them, yes, set, if it means, if you are not going to remember, because first of all, it also takes a while to build a habit.
Yeah.
And so if the habit isn't there, why would you do it? It's not even there. So you have to actually build the habit. And the way to build a habit is by doing things in repetition. So in repetition means very practical things like you set an alarm on your phone every hour or every 2 hours. And even if you can't do it at that moment, you go, oh, right, I'm right. Like I have to, okay, fine. And it feels weird at first because you're like, oh, the alarm. Okay. It's like, that's not normal. It's like, you're not your normal, but things become your normal. Why would it feel normal and natural? It's not part of you yet. And it has to become part of you in order for it to feel natural and normal. And even then it's like, it's a mindset shift. It's a habit shift. It's a choice and a belief shift. And then underneath all of those things, you have to decide why this feels important to you. Like, why is this important to you? Well, you described already some reasons why it feels important to you. Because you're like, I don't want to live like, I want to honor this stuff that's going on in my body that's there for a reason. I want to like, there's something to it. There's something to it. And again, if it's your belief, you could have a belief that does not go along with that. If you're saying, if you're watching, you believe something, but if you're someone else, so there's plenty of people that are like, nope. That's not my belief. Is strong. Belief is one of the strongest forces. I just learned this recently was that I love this. God, I'm going to misquote it. I always do this, but basically the gist of it, when someone challenges your belief, the response in your body is the equivalent of being chased by an animal. Like the response, challenge
the
is
fight or flight response. Yeah.
kind of like that. So if you believe something strongly enough, that's the whole deal. If you like the concept but don't believe it yet, but want to believe it, even that's on the right track.
Oh yeah, no, I love that. Like that's something too that I always say, like with my clients, it's like, okay, you might not believe it now,
Right.
but are you willing to believe it?
Right. Do you,
And then, even if you're not willing, are you willing to be willing? And it's like you kind of keep like, and so as long as you're like willing to be willing to eventually be willing.
Right. Good. Then you're in the right place. Right. Then you're like, you're wetting your palate. You've got like your senses are awake.
That opens up about that, right? Like just like
your senses are waking up. Yeah.
But I love that too. Belief is really, really strong, and something that I want to say too in this moment, because like when we got excited about this topic, it's just like there are so many archaic, outdated, just non-helpful beliefs about women's bodies and the cycles and what they are. Like, I know I grew up saying, I hate my period. It's so gross.
A lot of women do. It's pretty, it's shame, big time shame. I have adult friends who would say that. And I was like, how can you say that? I mean, I'm probably a rare case, but I'm glad you're mentioning that, because I think a lot of women grow up exactly like you, and women who, there's so many scenarios about that, but I didn't. I was also like always fascinated by it. I always was thought it was cool and interesting, and like, wow, look what my body can do. It always has told me it's on the right track. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But I know lots of women who are like, ew, and awful, and I suck, and this is horrible, and I feel like shit, just all of those things. Yeah.
And our society, like men conditioning, they also perpetuate that, right? Like there's the age old thing of like, why are you being so bitchy? Like, are you PMSing? And it's just, and I also like, I remember I was shocked to know that some cultures, or I don't know if they still do this, but like older generations, they're like when you're on your period, like you can't be in the same room as certain people, like as the men, or like you can't touch stuff because you're considered dirty. It's just, that's just like, think about
clean yourself after you've bled to make sure you're clean again. And it's old stuff. And some cultures are pretty, the red tent was where the tent is where you go to bleed when you're, some of that's actually quite beautiful, because it's actually a space to, to actually get your rest and slow down and not be doing all these other things. So it's a little bit of it's a break. So for that's the plus side, the positive version. The other is the shaming and the ugly and the dirty and the wrong and the bad, or whatever other words you want to attach to it.
Which is so, and like you said, though, belief is so strong, because if we were growing up and conditioned with those beliefs, it's literally going against logic, because it's like the fact that women have a period, it's evidence that we can create life in our bodies.
I know. So I was saying we're creative life forces by nature. Even if you don't, we are by nature creative forces. That is proof. So to me, it's always been proof, like I am a creative life force. That's what it's a reminder of. And if you can see it as that is creative life force inside of me, however it needs to come out, then you can reframe that too. And creativity and what that shows in the world is multitude. Like there's a million ways to create. So
I love that. So what are some like practical next steps that men and women, because like depending whoever's like you watching this, you're at different levels of where you are in relation to your period or the periods of women if you're a man. So what practical steps or things can people start thinking about to start to shift their mindset and actually use women's cycles as a creative life force, as an inspiration, as an intuition? Like, what are some things we need to start doing? Just little tweaks that we can make in our habits that
well, first has to be whatever your inner messaging is, and start paying attention to it. I think we are very unconscious a lot of the time to what they're very sneaky. The language in our own minds sneaks in, and you don't even realize that you're like saying these awful things about yourself or your body or your whatever
bodies.
Yeah, or anyone's, exactly. So the first is just paying attention and listening to the voices, and just deciding that you're gonna pay attention to them. And probably if you needed to, a next step would be writing what those things are out, and then choosing new language that you're going to replace it with. Not, and again, belief is powerful. I'm not even saying, oh, go change your belief, but start being open to the possibility of like, oh, what if I try this other way, or try this out, or try stopping in my day to do what I told you earlier, which is to take a moment with your body, feel your heartbeat, feel your belly, do things that are loving, just like what you teach in your work around self-love, and take the time to do that. So those are like little tweaks that actually make a big difference. When we shift our perception, that alone can do wonders, actually, and create a ripple into other things. And this stuff is messy. It's not like you're going to you just have to be willing to be open to trying that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can even share like just specific, like, yeah, I mean, that's a beautiful next step, like regardless of where anyone is on their journey. Like even for me, I'm like, ooh, I can pay more attention to like what I'm thinking. And I remember, and I think, well, I'll say this because it kind of leads to like my kind of opening up into this world of like learning to love my body on a deeper level, and women's bodies on a deeper level, is being around people who are thinking and believing in the way that you want to shift to thinking and believing.
Right.
So,
great point.
And of course, we don't want to say like cut off your family if they're thinking periods are gross. But, start being around women who do honor their body. Because when I started being around women who honored their periods and their cycles and knew more about this stuff, I started to feel this deeper self-love for myself. And I'll remember a specific moment because I did the 10-day silent meditation Vipassana retreat back in 2013. And, there was a time when like you're silent the whole time, but then the night before, or like the day before the last day, you can talk to each other, but men and women are separate, right? So all the women, when we were finally able to talk to each other, we all went out into the desert, and it was a beautiful super moon, like this gorgeous moon that lit up the whole desert. And this woman who was like, I used to judge women like that were like earthy, crunchy granola and like super into their period with the hairy armpits and all that stuff. And she was like talking about the moon and how feminine it was, and how she does rituals to like give her blood back to the earth. And so this is 2013. So at that time, like that was super like radical and progressive for me. I just was like, whoa. But there was a curiosity and an openness in me that had me not be like, ew, you're gross. I mean, part of me was like, ew, you're gross, admittedly. But a bigger part of me was like, there's something to that. Like, I'm here hating my period for like the last 10 plus years or however long I had my period. And so I'm so grateful to her. And it's funny, her name's Luna, like moon, right? It's so perfect.
Was Willow there too, and River, and
no,
was there.
Just Amelia and some other people.
All right.
And Amanda, like, so yeah. But she, I still think about that moment. And that opened me up to really tune in to like the sacredness and the intuition and the messages that are there. And I started to attract other women that were like that. I've just been learning.
I have those stories. I know what you mean. And it's the thing is, that's funny that you say it was this beautiful supermoon. If you need a reminder of cycles, if you don't believe that there's value in the cycles of your body, the full moon affects the ocean. The full moon affects what goes on with the tides. That's real. There are fishermen who don't know anything about this that will tell you that the moon is, the surfers who will say, well, the tide is this way because the full moon is this way. That is a cycle, an earth cycle, the same way. Our bodies also tune in. So, I mean, it's
and we're 70% water. So if the moon can affect the ocean.
Yes. 70, 80%. Yes, that is correct. That is real. That is real. Without witchy or no witchy, it's real. I'll go witchy, but not.
I go witchy. I still witchy as well.
You got to merge the non-witchy. I think they find each other. Yeah.
Yeah. No, of course. No. So thank you. So this is so good. Like, as we kind of start to wrap up, I mean, we could talk about this forever, and there's so much to learn. And like I said, that was 2013. So what is that, 7 years ago? And so I've been on this journey of learning, and I still feel like there's so much more I can learn. But like, yeah, what are some either final words that you have for us to think about, or like any resources? And of course,
I have a few resources that I'll tell you. So, I mean, final words, I can say a lot. So I think it's great. I have to mention, because from forever ago, one of my friends and mentors is Dr. Christiane Northrup, and she years ago wrote the book Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. So anyone can read that, man, woman, child, whoever. It's like, and I think she has a new edition actually that she just revised, and it's a great resource for just really looking at parts of the cycle and the body and the phases and the stages. And I think it's sort of like every household should have. Like when you said in school, we don't get to learn a lot of this stuff, and that should be in the school system. Like that should be in the part of the curriculum wherever is that. So that's a great book wherever you are in any of this. It's a great resource. And of course, there's lots of other books that that talk about cycles in the body and phases, which I could list
the
several.
one I'm reading right now, hold on, I was just going to grab it. I'm reading Women Code.
Yeah, so my friend wrote that. I know. I studied with her. So that's, yeah, she's a friend and a colleague, and I studied with her, and I refer to that book often. There's another one that's actually kind of more a fun one that I have men read all the time. It's just called The Female Brain. I love that book, but I just forgot the name of the author. All you have to look up is The Female Brain, and it's got a cute cover. What's great is it's easy to read, but it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. A lot of sense describing the phases and what happens in our bodies and our minds. It's really a great read. It's easy, and it's anyone can follow. And I like I said, I've recommended a lot of men read it too, and they love it. And they're like, oh, I get it. Like it just is like, oh, right. Because it's from a certain perspective that it just makes sense. So get that one. That's a great one.
Oh, and good.
Women's Wisdom.
And as everyone if you're new to watching this show, I usually come into the comments later, and I'll put links to the actual books on there too, so you can purchase them if you'd like. But yeah, The Female Brain and Women's Minds, Women's Bodies, right?
Women's Bodies, Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom. You could type that one in. Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom is a great one by Dr. Christiane Northrup. You want to type that? Yeah.
I'm going to type that one too. Women's Bodies,
Women's Wisdom. And there's a new edition. So it's been revised, which is great.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah. Perfect.
Alyssa?
Are you from?
I'm reading this one now.
Yeah, Women Code's good too.
And then your work. Tell us about your work and how we can find you and what you've got going on as well.
You cannot find me. I'm only here in this moment. Otherwise, I'm totally a mystery. I'll just fade on. No, I have a website. You can reach out to me there. That way, it's very easy to find me that way. And I'm exactly. Thank you. There in social media is, Jessica Ruth Shepard on Facebook, and at Jessie Sheps on Instagram. It's funny. I actually end up working with a lot of clients and people who aren't on social media at all. So a lot of I don't put tons and tons of my work in that place. Some of it, but only because anyway, I have other ways that I end up meeting a lot of great people that I work with. But I've got this great women's group right now that I just started a women's program. And a couple people are starting late, and it's called Uncovering Your Magic. And magic really is about letting your intuition be a guidepost in your life. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here and having this chat. It's so, so important. And, everyone who watches Self-Love TV, you all know I love to remove stigmas and get to the truth and get back to that self-loving place. And, whether you're a woman with a woman's body or not, or women, women are in our lives, and there's so much wisdom. We're everywhere. There's so much wisdom in our bodies alone. There's so much wisdom in the phases of the moon, and there's so much wisdom and so much freedom that can happen when you just start to tweak your life a little bit to go with your intuition and go with those phases and learn more about that. And that's a whole lifelong journey. I'm on the journey right now, and I'm just so grateful you were here to share all of your wisdom about it with me and with
I
us.
think that we're all I told a friend recently, she said she has this group called Fit and Fabulous Aging Optional, and she was talking about blah 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 as we age, and I said, well, you don't age, we're evolving. You're just evolving. You just keep evolving and evolving and evolving, and these things, sometimes we learn them not too late but later, and that's just part of the deal. It's never too late. You're just gonna, if you stay open to learning, you'll get what you need.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for being here. And to those of you watching, I just want to shout out, like, we had Julissa, we had Felix, Veronica, Corazon, Dan, Angela, Yahara, Edwin, Lisa, Tamara. Like, we had so many people on live today, and those are the people that I can see. If you're watching this on a replay, thank you so much for being here. Drop a hashtag replay. Watch this again with some notes. And as a reminder too, Self Love TV is always on every Wednesday night for Wind Down Wednesday with me and Felix at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And then I always have wonderful guests like Jessica, usually on Fridays or at different times depending on my guest schedules. So just keep it locked right here on Facebook and you'll hear about all the things. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you for watching. Bye, everybody.